Hello and welcome to the Teaching Our Kids podcast, a place for parents, teachers, and everybody in between to learn about how kids learn. And we missed you in April, sorry. We had technical difficulties, but we're here now. Today we're doing learning styles, which is how kids learn. And I have a lot of information about that on my blog. I have a whole quiz even if you want to kind of know what your kid's learning style is. It's not an exact science, but I think it's a lot of cool information. So yes, so learning styles, they're very fun. A lot of people, when I went to school, we learn about a lot of different ways the kids learn.
Mm-hmm.
Different theorists, I guess you call them. They're people who wrote books and did psychology and all these different things. That's like Montessori is someone's name, like that. So that was his theory on how kids learn and stuff. So learning styles, I forget. I'm gonna have to add. I'll add a little link in the description of this if people want to like learn about where that originated, because I can't remember the name right now and I didn't write that down. But basically, there is 4 learning styles. Um, I'll give a little quick explanation. So there's auditory learning, which is learners who love to talk and they're good at remembering names and they like to hear the information. Those are those people you love to hate because they like hear a song and they know all the lyrics and they
Mm-hmm.
hear information and they can just recite it back to you. I'm pretty sure Andy is that way. He like just
Mm.
remembers things so easy and he just has to hear it and it's crazy. So that's auditory learners. Sometimes they can struggle to focus if there's a lot of outside noise going on, though. And like
Yeah, I noticed that stuck with me when I read that in your the notes that you sent
uh huh.
over because I witnessed that this weekend with one of my boys,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was like, I wanted to just like shake him and be like, stop listening to everything else," because he was really trying so hard on this one thing, this one task. But like if a bird tweeted, if he heard a kid like constantly,
Mhm.
all the sounds around him were just distracting him.
Oh yeah. So that's for sure. Um, Definitely one of those things. So then we have the next learning style is reading and writing learner. And these kids, I mean, it's exactly what it says. They learn by reading things and then writing notes. They retain information by looking at the words, books, sentences. Um, and this is probably the most generic, like school used. When people think about learning, this is what they think of
Right.
reading, writing. And it is dominant. Like most people have a percentage of this in their, because that's how, when we went to school, that's how you learn. You read it,
Right.
you wrote it over and
Well, it's
over.
probably it's probably been taught as the easiest way to teach a large group of children too, right?
Yes, because the majority of people, like, it comes natural to them.
Hmm.
Um, so then the next learning style, I like this one, the visual learner. They're about like the big picture. So they like to look at maps and they like to do puzzles and they fit the shapes together easier. And they need like visuals. So, like, you might want to give them visual cues, like when they're following instructions to like put together a piece of furniture or something, they need to see the picture instead of just reading place A and B together. They need to see the picture to help them. And these kind of kids sometimes tend to like memorize the alphabet shapes as opposed to like,
Mm.
because they can see them, that shape. Um, so that's visual learners. Then we have kinesthetic learners, the last one, and they are experienced. They use their 5 senses the most. They do the moving, using trial and error learning, like those kids that need to just like get their hands in there and do it. They don't necessarily follow the directions as much, and they don't like reading the books as much, or even listening. They're just like, let me get in here and do this, and
Yeah.
that's how I'm gonna learn it. You know. So they like to work with their hands to absorb that information. So those are the 4 types of learners. And basically, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my kids. I did the quiz for Harry this morning. I have the quiz on my blog. And he is 44% a read write learner, which I knew he was going to
Mm.
be. That boy likes to read a lot. And that's how he absorbs that information. He reads it, he writes it. And then his next level was auditory, 39, which is like his dad, like I was saying
Right.
earlier. He hears it and he just knows it. And I always tell him I'm going to sign him up for Jeopardy because he remembers all these crazy facts. Um, but that those are his strengths. That's he does really well in the public school area because those two, that read, write, and the auditory, are some of the biggest ways that they teach in that setting.
Right.
Um, so, and maybe part because he's been in school, he's in fourth grade now. That's maybe why they tend to be stronger too, because they have taught him in that style for so long. So he's stronger in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Lily, she is her strongest is visual. She was 56% a visual learner, which she likes to
Mm.
draw a lot and look at things and do puzzles and that kind of thing. And then Kinesthetic, which was 19%, was her next. So she's still evenly spread out more. She didn't have one that was as strong. But the kinesthetic is the moving and the dancing and
Mm.
um, so she's very the opposite of him. He had the auditory read write, and she had the visual kinesthetic, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Right.
So
And how does that type of learning style suit her in traditional public
she
school?
she does well. She is. It took her like I've talked about before, longer to kind of get at the norm level. Like I think
Oh,
that read
right. Yeah.
write is easier to like memorize when you have that read write and the auditory. It's easier to memorize that information and get through that initial learning faster, like the letters and the sight words and the numbers, and you like memorize and get them quicker than you do kind of for the visual kinesthetic, which are more moving and you know so that it definitely, at least in the early childhood, the younger phase,
Right.
it was a slower for her to get to the average level or whatever, I think, than
Right.
it was for Harry. But she's doing great now. And again,
Mm-hmm.
it's all balance. I wanted to say when I was a teacher, I loved teaching. I loved trying to use all these ways. Like I would teach a topic and we would do different centers in my classroom. So there would be a reading writing center, but then they'd have a place where they had to jump the words out, which is more kinesthetic, or where they had to make a puzzle with the words, which is that's the more visual, or create a map about whatever we're learning. And so I try to do all the different ways because it helps, even if you are stronger in one than another, just to try it all out,
Right.
especially for the younger kids. So,
I wish I could recall there's a statistic about retention of information. Then it's like a certain percentage of information can be retained if it's just told to a person.
right.
That percentage increases a little bit if it's shown to them. And then for most folks, if it's told and shown, and then there
And
might be
they have to
another,
do it, and you
right,
get
then
them to,
that's where the retention
yes,
or the learning actually
right.
happens.
Yep.
That's the highest percentage of understanding, comprehension, retention, when all of the learning
Yes.
approaches are combined.
And that's sort of what this kind of is about. Like you can't just like like get a kid like learn these like look at these flashcards and learn the alphabet. Like
Right.
the adults don't even
Boring.
like that. Don't even like learning that way. So yeah,
Right.
it definitely sticks better when you get to apply it and use
Yeah.
it. So yeah, definitely. Like I said, that read write is the biggest used in public schools in any really school setting. Is that reading and writing? Like read it, write it
Yeah.
down.
I want to do this. I missed that link in your in the email that you sent
Mm-hmm.
over. I'm going to try it because now I'm interested to know if I'm right about what type of
What you
learning
think their
my
learning styles are?
children are. Yeah.
Well, tell me what you think. What you think? I want to hear. What do
Okay,
you think,
so
Tegan?
um, I think, like I mentioned before, I think Tegan is definitely he's auditory. This child likes to talk. He's a lot like me,
Mhm.
an external processor. When we're comprehending something, we have to talk it out.
Mhm.
I mean, bless this child. He can't stop talking. And I wonder where he gets it from. I get it, but he's very easily distracted by other noises.
Mhm.
So I definitely think that. Um, I do think that he's absolutely a kinesthetic learner as well.
Yes, so
Um,
those are his two dominant.
right. Like when we're doing stuff, we have a lot of fidgets around the house. He's into the Rubik's Cube, so he will just sometimes have a conversation with me
Mhm.
or be doing something while playing with or solving the Rubik's Cube.
Right.
And it's maddening to me sometimes because I'm like, I need you to look at me to make sure that I know that you're
You can
listening.
hear
But
it,
he's like,
yeah.
Mom, I can hear you. And I'm like,
Right.
can you? Uh,
For sure. Well, and I would imagine too a lot of your unschooling stuff is kinesthetic style, like when they're learning like with their cash register, and that's like, doing that's learning through doing it.
right.
And
I
at the
think,
zoo reading the words and all of that.
mhm. Yeah. And I mean, in my particular group of unschoolers, I mean, we just spend so much time outdoors.
Right.
Like we just put them in the woods and they go.
Uh-huh.
So, especially now that the weather's gotten more pleasant or warmer. But yeah, the kinesthetic learning happens then because they're in a stream catching,
Right.
fish and tadpoles and frogs and all of that. And that's, then we've got, some of the moms bring a book along at
Mhm.
our picnic table. And then there's the younger kids along with the older kids kind of teaching each
Right.
other. So yeah, that's definitely hands-on kinesthetic
Sure.
learning. And that's aligned with unschooling.
What about
Callan,
What
sorry, go ahead.
about, hold on, one more question for Tegan.
Yeah,
Does he remember words to songs really easy too? Like,
this kid remembers everything. I
because
want
that's
to
the
tell,
thing. If he hears a song and he like can
yes.
sing it to you again, that's another big auditory like
So the
tag.
neighbors call him the mayor of Medfield. This is because he knows every single person's name in my neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
Not only does he know their name, he knows the color and type of car that they drive.
Oh my gosh.
Quick story, there's a car parked, it was a Mini Cooper parked like on the side street next to our house, and the lights are on at night. And he's like,
Mhm.
Mom, these lights are on. We got to go tell the neighbor. And I was like, I've never seen this car in my life. I
Mm.
don't know who this belongs to. He's like, I know exactly who it is. That she has two sons. They go to the school up the street. I see them all the time. I'm like, okay, great, but I don't know where she lives. He's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I do. I'm like, what are you talking about? This
He
person
just
I don't know.
watches. He like people
Right.
watches. Hmm.
So he walks me at like 8 o'clock, walks me behind to the street that is behind our house. Like
Uh-huh.
I knocked on the door. This woman came up and she had like her pajamas on. I was like, I'm so sorry. Your lights are on. My son says that this is your car. Do you have a Mini Cooper? And she's like, yeah, we do. I was like, thank you, goodness.
I'm not knocking on somebody's door that's not
Right.
even. Yeah.
And she's like, thank you so much. I was like, he told me he's seen you before, get in your
Yeah.
car, and he's just got a thing for car, like just
Yeah.
remembers. He didn't know their names, however, but yeah, he just
Yeah.
recalls all of that.
That's cool.
Um, it is. He always calls me old because I can't remember anything. I'm like, it's just what I choose to remember, Tegan.
Well, and that's a cool, like when he is ready to like memorize this information for reading and for math that,
Hmm.
right now he's kind of like, I don't want to do school yet, but when he's ready, able to do that. It's going to be it like when he wants to do it, he's going to do it fast, I
Yeah,
think. I think that's a cool just connection for you there. That
yeah,
it'll come.
definitely.
So,
Um, I think Callan is probably closer to your Lily.
yeah.
And he definitely is visual. He's also kinesthetic.
Yeah.
So Callan likes to, he doesn't want to be told what to do. He doesn't want to read the directions. He doesn't want to like sit there and do the boring thing. He's just like, get out of my way. I'm going to learn.
Yes, I'm figuring this out right now.
I put him into an art class and he finished the class, but he just despised it the entire time. And from now on, anytime I've asked him, what he wants to do, he's like, I just want to do my own thing, mom. Anytime, like if we go to the science center and there is,
Uh-huh.
one of those like little organized things, I'll say, do you want to do this? And he'll go, well, what do they have? And then he'll say, I just want to make my own thing. He doesn't want to follow the directions. He
Right.
doesn't want to be like put in a box. He just wants to figure it out alone.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. He's very demanding.
I think that, and so that would definitely make school tougher for him
Yeah.
because you can't. I mean, some people will allot time for things like that, for that exploration, but it is not a lot of it, of time,
Yeah,
I
he would
mean.
hate school. He would
Yeah,
hate public school so much.
I think so too.
But that's why unschooling is right for our family because
Yeah.
it gives it kind of works for a bunch of different learning styles,
Mhm.
right?
Well, and you
And
can really hyper focus on the ones that are the
right,
best because you get to make the choice of how much time is spent in which way. So,
right, exactly. And I don't, I've only got, well, I mean, I have the baby too, but in regards to school and learning, like she's learning a ton, but when it comes to me helping, I'm only having to help
right.
or, kind of assist the
Mhm.
two of them versus a whole classroom.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah,
And you don't have the time pressures uh of the expectations of meeting a level where they need to
right.
meet.
Hmm.
Like, he might not be reading it, he will, and but there's not you're not you have that pressure on you, which also
Yeah,
is why you have the time.
right.
So,
Exactly.
oh, just some other notes here. Like, so kinesthetic learners end up to be like dancers, athletes,
Mm.
tradespeople. Like, that's more what they are. Visual learners, and this is not. I'm not trying to put anybody in a box. They can be whatever they like. Doesn't matter. But this is just gives you an idea. Like, if
In
visual
general.
learners like art are tend to be artists, chefs, engineers,
Mm.
architects. Um, and then I had for the auditory learning, they could be like writers, journalists, teachers, lawyers, that kind, or language specialists, like people who can learn lots of languages. That's another heavy
Mm.
auditory. And then the reading and writing, I didn't have any for that, but that's just it's just so many.
Professors.
Yes, people who read and write and share and give information in that way. So that's basically it for the learning styles. Hold on a second. My dog is barking again. So let's see. Do we want to? I'm trying to think if I want to say anything else about these learning styles. I think it's fun. I encourage anybody to even do this at home with your kids. Like, then you might know, even if you're having like trouble communicating or about any idea, not just like academic learning, but like, I don't know, imagine you're trying to potty train. I don't know, you can make a dance about what it feels like when you got to pee, or you just like can tell them, or you could read the book. You can like target it
Yeah.
to um, their learning style, and it's
I
very
think this
cool.
is really good segue into our next topic, which is
Yes.
parenting styles, because everybody, I mean, parents, we're always wondering if we're doing the right thing and how, when it's not going well with our kids, how we can make it better. I think that this is one thing that we as parents have to consider when we're trying to work with our kids, right? Like,
Oh
if
yeah.
we want them to accomplish something, say, put their stuff away or put their clothes away, and we're trying to build a new habit, like right now for Tegan, I'm trying to work with him regularly on when we get home, all your stuff gets out of the car and gets unpacked before going out and playing with your friends. And that is difficult for him because the second that we pull up to the house, he hears all of the
Right, they're
excitement.
out there, and he's like, you got that
Right.
FOMO.
Right. So when I'm trying to help him learn a new habit, I have to
Mhm.
keep in mind that he is an auditory learner, right? So
Mhm.
I can't talk to him when there are other
Right.
audible stimuli or auditory stimuli around, because I'm not going to make that connection. But then I also have to remember that he needs to do stuff with his hands. So
Mhm.
sometimes I give him something to play with while we're talking, or I just hold his hand so that I can get his full
Right.
attention.
Right.
But that's just one of the ways that I kind of try and leverage his learning style when parenting,
Very
which we're
cool.
going to go into
Yes.
later.
So thank you, everybody. I'm going to close this one out. Awesome. Please go take my quiz if you're interested at all in this. It's, you know, it's
I'm
not
doing it now.
written in stone or anything, but it's fun. It's a new way to learn about your kid and how to help them and how to enjoy them. So do it.